Now, one thing when you're shooting with your DSLR with any camera is white balance. You know, whenever we show with a video camera, we'd always hold up a big old board of white, you know, big old whiteboard, white card, and we'd have all the cameras and the multiple cameras shoot, go onto that white card, and then we'd set our white balance and we'd leave it alone. We wouldn't run it on automatic. And then all the cameras are matched in white balance, and I'm going to show you a little shot in a little bit showing two cameras that aren't matched in white balance and how irritating that can be. And you know, that's why it's a good idea when you're doing a multiple camera shoot to have the same brand and type of camera, because you get two different brands of camera, it may be very difficult to match the white balance, especially with older cameras. But with a DSLR, you want to actually get a gray card, and you want to set up your white balance and leave it. You don't want to use automatic white balance. You want to use a custom white balance in your DSLR, okay? And there's several steps depending on which camera you use. But basically what you do is you'd get into a scene and you would get a gray card, and you would have your camera shoot the gray card or white card, okay? And you'd put it where your center of interest is going to be, wherever the person is setting that you're shooting, that's your primary center of interest for your shot. You'd put a white card or a gray card, and you would shoot that with your camera. And then you would have that in the center of your frame, and you'd perform a white balance, okay? And once you perform a white balance, you would store that as a custom white balance, and that would be what you would keep the camera at or cameras at for the remainder of the shoot, okay? You want to get white balance correct because it's really difficult to fix white balance in post. Sometimes it's impossible. And so getting white balance correct in the first place is what you want to do. And another thing you want to get correct is your focus. Now, I strongly recommend that you use an external monitor on your DSLR, and an external monitor would be one of maybe 5 to 7 inches or more, and it would be designed for your camera monitor. One, everybody can collaborate with a larger monitor, but the most important thing is there's a function on your monitor called peaking, and peaking puts a colored edge on the images in focus. And so with some monitors it's blue, some monitors it's red, and what you do is when you're going to focus on your object of interest, your subject of interest, you can adjust your focus on your camera, and then when you see this red or blue edging on the person you're trying to make in focus, then that peaking tells you where your focus is and what areas of your picture are in focus. And so using peaking is very important on your external monitor of your DSLR video camera to make sure focus is correct. Okay. Also, your external monitor is very, very important for the functions of the other menus of monitors. Like some of the external monitors give you a histogram display where you can see your histogram and you know how the light is hitting on your image, and you can adjust your iris and you can adjust your ND filter using the histogram to get the right light levels, okay? You can also use your waveform monitor if you want to set your light levels instead of a histogram, and get the light set correctly where you aren't overdriving anything. And then some of those external monitors even have a vector scope so you can get your colors set correctly, okay? And sometimes you want to put a chip chart in front of the camera to get your light levels correct, and sometimes you want to put up a color chart of some kind to get your color level set up correctly. I think it was a McCurdy color chart was the one that everybody was using. I'm not sure But anyway, you can set up using the waveform monitor, vector scope, and histogram, and that can all be shown on your external monitor if you get the right external monitor, and you're peaking to get your shot just right before you start. You want to make sure you're in focus, because that little bitty monitor on your camera is not good enough to tell if you're in focus. Okay, it's not good enough to tell if you have noise, and so an external monitor is pretty much vital. You have to focus on your DSLR. You can actually, there's a magnify button on the right side of Canon, and you can hit the magnify button and you can go to 5x magnification or 10x magnification, and then you can adjust your focus using the magnification to get what you're wanting to shoot in focus. You know, and this is particularly important when you use interchangeable lenses, because interchangeable lenses have different focal situations. Like if you use a long lens, it's going to have a more narrow depth of field, and you really can't tell if it's in focus or not unless you use a magnification setting on your camera or peaking on an external monitor. You know, and as you start getting better with your DSLR video shooting, you'll probably want to get more lenses and have a variety of lenses that will allow you to get the shots you need. You know, and you probably want to well, usually when you buy your camera, you might get a couple zoom lenses with the camera, one zoom lens with the camera, but then you want to start getting prime lens. You know, prime lenses have a fixed focal length, and they have several advantages. They can give you a little bit more aperture setting. You can get a wider aperture setting. They can increase the sharpness. They give you a little bit better color sometimes, and they don't have vignetting. Vignetting is when you have a reduction of brightness around the edges of the picture. You don't see vignetting too much anymore, but a prime lens is better in that setting too, or that problem too. But the important thing of a prime lens is it will give you a little bit more sharpness, a little bit better color, and the real important thing is you can actually have a much larger aperture with very low f-stops on some prime lenses to give you that very, very narrow depth of field. Everything is out of focus in the background, cinematography look, you know. And so you also want to get your lenses where there are different lengths. You know, there's wide and long lenses, and you know, you might want to get a couple telephoto lenses, and sometimes telephoto lenses are great for doing limited depth of field shots, and so you want to keep that in mind.